The ship broke apart above the dead moon. Metal tore free and spun into the dark. Escape pods fired late, most of them failing before they cleared the blast. Jonah Vale felt the impact before he heard it, the floor buckling under him. Gravity failed, then snapped back hard. He stayed conscious by habit. Pain was nothing new. The alarm kept screaming. It never stopped screaming. He pulled himself down the corridor, smoke low and thick. Crew lay still along the walls. He didn't stop to check. Stopping got people killed. He reached the pod bay, half of it gone. One pod remained, its door flickering red. Someone was already inside. The ship died seconds later, and Jonah launched. The pod burned hard as it hit atmosphere, heat clawing at the hull. Jonah braced himself, jaw tight. The landing slammed him forward, a bone-rattling force through the seat. Silence followed, heavy and complete. He waited, counting breaths. Systems flickered back weak and dim. The pod had landed in a valley, wide and quiet. Green spread below him, untouched by cities or fire. Jonah forced the hatch open. Fresh air rushed in. He stepped out slowly, scanning for threats. This world wasn't on any chart he knew. That worried him more than the crash. Behind him, the pod hissed once, then went dark. The other survivor climbed out moments later, tall and rigid. Its skin was pale blue, marked with faint lines. Jonah recognized the shape at once, an Aurelian. Not just any Aurelian. This one wore command bands. An Alliance leader stood stranded beside him. The alien looked around, eyes sharp and cold. "This landing is unacceptable," it said, voice flat. Jonah almost laughed. "Almost. Yeah," he said. "I'll file a complaint." The alien turned toward him, studying his torn suit. "You are human," it said. Jonah nodded once. "That makes this worse," the alien replied, without humor. They moved away from the pod as the smoke thinned. Jonah took the lead, rifle low and ready. The valley felt wrong to him, too still. The alien followed close, steps precise and quiet. "My name is Saar," it said. "Jonah," he replied. No titles were exchanged. Jonah didn't care. Saar scanned the horizon, jaw tight. "The Alliance fleet will respond," Saar said. "Maybe," Jonah answered. "Or maybe no one knows we're here." That earned him a long look. Aurelian eyes missed very little. Saar said nothing, but its pace quickened, fear hidden behind control. They found shelter near dusk, stone rising from the valley floor. Jonah checked sight lines, then waved Saar in. The alien hesitated, then complied. "This is inefficient," Saar said. "It works," Jonah replied. He set a small fire, careful and low. Saar watched every movement, learning. "You ignore protocol," Saar said. "Protocol got us shot down," Jonah answered. Silence stretched between them. Creatures moved in the distance, shapes only. Saar tightened its grip on a sidearm. Jonah noticed. He said nothing. Trust wasn't asked for. It was built, or it wasn't. Night fell fast, stars sharp overhead. Jonah ate from a ration pack, then tossed one to Saar. The alien inspected it, then ate without comment. "Your people resist Alliance directives," Saar said. "Sometimes," Jonah replied. "Your casualty rates are high," Saar continued. "So are yours," Jonah said. That ended the exchange. Wind moved through the valley, soft and steady. Jonah kept watch while Saar rested, or pretended to. He didn't sleep, not really. Morning would bring problems, it always did. Somewhere above them, the galaxy kept burning and didn't care. They set out at first light, heading toward higher ground. Jonah believed in seeing farther. It kept you alive. Saar questioned the route. Jonah ignored it. Hours passed without contact. The valley narrowed, stone closing in. Jonah slowed, senses sharp. He spotted the trap a second before it sprang. The ground collapsed, pulling Saar down hard. Jonah grabbed its arm, muscles screaming. "Hold still," he said. Saar froze, shock clear in its eyes. Together they climbed free, scraped but alive. Saar stared at the pit, then at Jonah. "You anticipated that," it said quietly. "Experience," Jonah replied. They moved on, slower now. Saar watched Jonah differently after that. The Alliance leader asked fewer questions. By midday they reached the ridge, the valley laid bare below. Smoke rose far to the east. Jonah frowned. That wasn't natural. "We're not alone," he said. Saar raised its scanner, confirming the same. Hostiles were on the move, organized and armed. Saar straightened, command instinct rising. "We must avoid engagement," it said. Jonah shook his head. "They're between us and food. That's a problem." Saar argued, his logic sharp and fast. Jonah listened, then pointed to the terrain. High ground here, he said. Cover here. Wind at our backs. Saar followed his finger, calculating. The plan was simple, almost crude. It also made sense. They moved into position without another word. When the first shot rang out, Saar flinched. Jonah didn't. The fight was quick, brutal, and close. When it ended, the valley was quiet again. The landscape in the camp changed. Saar stood among the fallen, breathing hard. None of its models had predicted this outcome. Jonah checked his rifle, calm and steady. You could have retreated, Saar said. Could have, Jonah answered. But then we'd be running forever. Saar looked out over the land, thinking. The alliance had survived by sacrifice and distance. Jonah had chosen risk and contact. Both had costs. Saar finally spoke, voice softer now. Perhaps, it said, your methods have value. Jonah didn't smile. This is just the start, he said, and meant it. They buried the bodies before moving on. Jonah insisted on it. Saar objected at first, then helped anyway. No words were spoken during the work. The ground was soft, the task quick. When it was done, Saar paused, looking back. Resources were wasted, it said. People aren't resources, Jonah replied. Saar didn't answer. They traveled east toward the smoke, keeping low. The ridge gave way to broken hills. Jonah kept them off open ground. Saar noticed the pattern, memorizing it. By afternoon, the air smelled wrong. Metal and oil carried on the wind. A camp was close. They watched from a rise as figures moved below. Scavengers, human and alien mixed. Weapons were old but maintained. Saar counted numbers, threat levels rising. We should avoid them, Saar said. They've got our supplies, Jonah replied. Saar frowned. That wasn't in its data. Jonah studied patrol routes, then the gaps. We don't fight them, he said. We walk in. Saar stared at him. That's irrational, it said. It's human. Jonah answered and started down the hill. The camp noticed them halfway in. Weapons came up, voices rose. Jonah raised his hands, slow and clear. We crashed, he said. Need water and food. The scavengers hesitated, eyes flicking to Saar. An Aurelian alliance leader wasn't subtle. Saar stood still, posture controlled. This planet is not under alliance claim, Saar said. Jonah winced, just a little. A woman stepped forward, scar across her cheek. Everything is claimed, she said, and smiled thin. Negotiation followed, rough and tense. Jonah traded ammo for supplies. Saar watched, silent and alert. No threats were made, none were needed. The deal ended clean, no blood spilled. As they left, Saar spoke low. You revealed weakness, it said. Yeah, Jonah replied. People respond to that sometimes. They moved out before dusk. The hills opened into flatland. Saar checked its remaining gear. Your approach defies alliance doctrine, it said. Doctrine doesn't keep you fed, Jonah answered. Saar stored that away, another crack forming. Night found them near a dry riverbed. Jonah set watch markers with stones. Saar asked about them, Jonah explained. The explanation was simple, effective. You rely on learned instinct, Saar said. Mostly, Jonah replied. And mistakes, he added. Saar processed that. Failure is punished in the alliance, it said. Jonah shrugged. Failure teaches us, he said. The fire burned low between them. Stars reflected faint in Saar's eyes. For the first time, it asked a personal question. Why do you continue? It asked quietly. Jonah took his time answering. Because stopping is worse, he said. Saar accepted that without argument. Sleep came in short bursts. Jonah woke to movement before dawn. Figures crept along the riverbed. Scavengers, but not from the camp. These moved like hunters. Jonah woke Saar with a touch. They slid into cover, breath held. The hunters passed close, unaware. Saar's hand shook on its weapon. They would have killed us, it said. Yeah, Jonah replied, matter-of-factly. They followed the hunters at a distance. Curiosity wasn't the reason. Information kept you alive. The trail led to a structure half buried in sand. Old Alliance design, long abandoned. Saar stiffened at the sight. This facility was classified, it said. Still is, Jonah replied. The door hung open, forced from within. Inside was dark and quiet. They moved room to room, careful. Bodies lay scattered, long dead. Saar knelt beside one, recognition clear. These were my people, it said, voice tight. Jonah said nothing. They reached the core chamber at last. Power flickered weak, but alive. A data unit blinked, damaged but intact. Saar hesitated, then accessed it. What they saw changed everything. Coordinates scrolled across the screen. Multiple worlds, marked for harvest. This operation was unauthorized, Saar said. And ongoing, Jonah replied. Saar stood very still. The Alliance had lied, or worse. Doctrine began to crumble under weight. We need to warn them, Saar said. Jonah shook his head slowly. No, he said, we stop it. Saar looked at him, really looked. Stopping it meant action, not permission. It meant breaking rules that defined Saar's life. Jonah waited, pressure steady and calm. Outside, engines roared in the distance. More hunters were coming. Decision time had arrived. Saar shut down the terminal. We move, it said. Jonah nodded once. They slipped out the way they came. The planet was no longer just a refuge. It was a battleground now, and Saar had crossed a line it could never uncross. They ran until their lungs burned, then ran farther. The hunters spread out behind them, organized and fast. Jonah led them into broken ground. Stone and shadow favored the careful. Saar struggled with the pace, armor heavy. Jonah slowed without comment. Ahead, the land dropped into a ravine. Jonah slid down first, catching himself. He reached up for Saar. Saar hesitated, then took the hand. Trust formed in that moment, thin but real. They moved through the ravine unseen. By nightfall, the hunters gave up, for now. They rested in a cave cut by water long gone. Jonah checked the entrance, then sat. Saar removed its command bands. The gesture mattered more than words. You are abandoning status, Jonah said. I am abandoning blindness, Saar replied. The fire stayed unlit. Darkness felt safer. Saar replayed the data in its mind. Alliance leaders were complicit, or afraid. Either option led to ruin. Jonah watched Saar think. Change was loud inside, even when silent. You'll be hunted, Jonah said. I already am, Saar answered steady. They moved again before dawn. The ravine opened into plains scarred by old battles. Wreckage lay half-buried. Forgotten. Jonah scavenged what he could. Saar assisted without complaint. They spoke little now. Words weren't needed. By midday, a drone buzzed overhead. Alliance design, fresh paint. Saar froze. They found us, it said. Jonah scanned the sky. Not yet, he replied. He threw a flare far to the west. The drone followed it without thinking. Machines were simple. They changed direction fast. Jonah aimed for the wreck field. Metal confused sensors. Saar questioned the logic, then saw it work. The drone circled, then moved on. Improvisation, Saar said. Adapt or die, Jonah replied. They reached a transport hull by dusk. Inside was shelter and parts. Jonah sealed the door. Rain began to fall outside. Saar listened to it, unfamiliar. This world persists, it said. Most do, Jonah answered. They just don't get noticed. That night, Saar spoke of the Alliance. Not propaganda, but structure. Fear drove policy more than wisdom. Jonah listened without judgment. Fear keeps you alive short-term, he said. But it kills the future. Saar considered that. The rain eased, stars returning. Jonah slept lightly. Saar stayed awake. Leadership weighed heavy without authority. At dawn, Saar made a choice. We need proof, it said. Something undeniable. Jonah nodded. There's a relay north, he said, already moving. The relay sat on a hill, still active. Hunters guarded it now. More than before. Jonah studied the layout. Saar waited, then asked, what is the plan? Jonah shrugged. There isn't one, he said. We make one when it breaks. They approached at dusk. Jonah created noise to draw guards. Saar slipped inside alone. Alarms rose fast. Shots echoed across the hill. Jonah fought his way in, simple and brutal. Inside, Saar accessed the relay core. Hands steady despite chaos. Data streamed outward. Every Alliance node received it. Coordinates, footage, proof. The truth escaped containment. Jonah covered the exit. Hunters fell back, confused. The relay overloaded. Jonah grabbed Saar. They dove as the structure collapsed. Fire roared behind them. When it ended, silence returned. The message was already sent, unstoppable. Alliance ships appeared hours later. Not hunters this time. War vessels hung in orbit. Jonah watched them from the ridge. Saar stood beside him. Your people will answer, Jonah said. They must, Saar replied. A shuttle descended, slow and cautious. No weapons active. A signal blinked open channel. Saar ignored it. They want control, it said. They lost it, Jonah answered. The shuttle waited anyway. For once, patience replaced force. Saar stepped forward alone. Jonah stayed back, watching. Voices rose over the channel. Accusations, then silence. The truth did its work. Orders shifted. Command fractured. Saar returned an hour later. They will investigate, it said. And delay, Jonah replied. Yes, Saar agreed. But some will act. Hope arrived thin, but real. It didn't need permission. It only needed space and time. They didn't board the shuttle. They turned away from it. There was more to stop. More worlds marked. Jonah adjusted his pack. Saar followed without hesitation. The Alliance leader no longer waited for orders. The galaxy remained broken. But something had shifted. One rule had cracked. One voice had changed. From that fracture, others would spread. Jonah looked back once, then forward. The path ahead was hard, but it was theirs. They traveled north into colder land, the air thinning fast. The plains gave way to ice and stone. Jonah adjusted their route, avoiding open ridges. Saar's breath fogged, unfamiliar discomfort showing. This climate is inefficient, Saar said. Yeah, Jonah replied. So is dying warm. They pressed on. By midday, they spotted smoke ahead. Not a campfire, something larger. Industry, active and loud. Saar slowed, dread creeping in. That matches the data, it said. Jonah felt it too. Harvest site confirmed, and already running. They observed from cover as machines tore into the ground. Creatures worked alongside them, bound and silent. Prison labor, off the books. Jonah's jaw tightened. Saar recorded everything. This violates every charter, Saar said. Charters don't stop bullets, Jonah replied. A transport lifted off heavy with cargo. Another landed in its place. The cycle wouldn't stop on its own. Saar watched the workers collapse from exhaustion. Orders echoed sharp and cold. Something broke in Saar's posture. We intervene, it said. Jonah nodded once, already planning. They moved at night. Jonah disabled sensors with simple tools. Saar coordinated timing, learning fast. The first machine went down clean. Alarms followed, loud and panicked. Workers scattered. Guards reacted slow, overconfident. Jonah fought close, direct and final. Saar took command of the prisoners. Run east, it ordered. Do not stop. They ran. Explosions tore through the site. Fire rose into the dark sky. By dawn, the harvest was ash, and the world breathed again. Alliance response was faster this time. Ships arrived with guns hot. Jonah and Saar hid among the ruins. They won't listen, Jonah said. Some will, Saar replied. A skirmish broke out overhead. Alliance fighting alliance. The fracture spread wider. Saar watched with mixed relief and grief. This is my fault, it said. No, Jonah replied. This is consequence. The ships pulled back at last. The survivors were gone. The site stayed silent. Change had teeth now, and it hurt. Days passed as word spread. More relays lit up. More sites went dark. Some alliance leaders resisted. Others defected. Civil war simmered beneath the stars. Jonah and Saar moved constantly. They became ghosts. Stories followed them instead. A human and an Aurelian. Breaking chains. Leaving messes behind. Hope traveled faster than fleets. Saar struggled with the weight of it. You never asked for this, it said. No, Jonah replied, but I won't drop it. They reached a border world untouched so far. Cities clung to the horizon. People watched the sky, afraid. Jonah felt something shift in him. This wasn't survival anymore. It was defense. Saar addressed the local council. Not as a commander, but as a witness. The truth landed hard. Plans formed without alliance approval. Jonah smiled for the first time in days. Looks like they're learning, he said. They are choosing, Saar replied. Choice mattered. That was the difference. That was hope. The final harvest fleet arrived without warning. Larger than expected. Desperation drove it. Jonah and Saar stood with the defenders. Weapons were scarce. Resolve wasn't. The battle burned across the sky. Losses mounted fast. Jonah was hit, thrown hard. Saar dragged him to cover. Stay with me, it said. Jonah laughed weakly. Still leading, he said. Saar held the line, refusing to yield. Reinforcements arrived late. Independent fleets. Former alliance ships. They came without orders. The harvest fleet broke apart. Victory wasn't clean. The ground was littered with cost. Jonah survived, barely. Saar stood among the wounded. No speeches followed. No banners raised. Only relief. The sky cleared slowly. People stepped out of hiding. The world remained scarred, but free. Weeks later, councils formed again. Not empires. Not alliances. Networks. Saar declined permanent command. I will advise, it said. Not rule. Jonah prepared to leave. You could stay, Saar said. Someone else needs help, Jonah replied. They stood in silence. Trust complete now. Paths diverged without bitterness. The galaxy wasn't fixed, but it was moving, and that was enough. Jonah walked toward his next fight. Saar watched from afar. The lesson remained simple. Power without care fails. Control without trust breaks. Change starts small. One choice. One action. One person refusing to look away. The stars burned on. Not kind. Not safer. But open. And somewhere in that open dark, hope endured. Jonah didn't travel far at first. His body needed time. A small settlement took him in without questions. They had learned not to ask anymore. He helped where he could. Fixing walls. Carrying water. Watching the sky at night. News drifted in, slow and uneven. Some worlds stabilized. Others burned. No one pretended it was over. That honesty felt new. Jonah healed in pieces. Scars stayed. They always did. Saar moved differently now. No escort. No command bands. Just presence. It visited councils and listening posts. It spoke less than before. When it did speak, people leaned in. Not because of rank. Because of truth. Saar admitted failure openly. That shocked many. It freed others. Leaders began to step down. Not all. Enough. Change spread unevenly, but it spread. The alliance fractured into something looser. Messy with controlled chaos. More human, even when it wasn't. Systems gained local control. Defense became shared. Mistakes happened fast. They were fixed faster. Fear lost its grip little by little. Saar watched this with quiet focus. This was not victory. This was work. It finally understood Jonah's patience. Endurance mattered more than plans. Survival required care. That lesson stayed. Jonah left the settlement at dawn. He didn't say goodbye to many. Just a nod. A wave. A pack over his shoulder. The road ahead wasn't marked. That suited him. He moved toward rumors of trouble. Old habits guided his steps. He helped where help was welcome. He walked away when it wasn't. Some recognized him. Most didn't. That was fine. Heroes drew fire. He preferred results. Months passed. The galaxy shifted again. Less screaming. More talking. Still plenty of violence. But fewer excuses for it. Saar received a message one night. Short. Unencrypted. From Jonah. Still breathing, it said. Saar allowed itself a rare smile. Progress was slow. But real. That mattered. A new council formed on neutral ground. Not a throne. A table. Representatives sat as equals. Arguments were loud. So was laughter. Saar attended without authority. That felt right. Decisions took longer. They lasted longer too. Someone asked about Jonah Vale. Saar answered simply. He shows up when needed. Nothing more. Nothing less. That was enough. Years later, stories replaced reports. They changed in the telling. Jonah became taller. Stronger. More empathetic. Saar ignored most of it. Truth didn't need polish. The galaxy still held danger. But it also held memory. People remembered they had choices. That knowledge didn't fade easily. Children grew up hearing it. They asked different questions. They expected better answers. That was the quiet win. Jonah stood on a ridge on a distant world. A small fire burned at his side. The stars looked the same everywhere. That comforted him. He thought of Saar sometimes. Of the valley. Of the line that was crossed. He'd cross it again. Every time. Below him, lights marked a living town. Protected. Choosing its own future. Jonah smiled. Just once. He put out the fire and moved on. No speeches followed. No music swelled. Just footsteps into the dark. The galaxy didn't need saving anymore. It needed tending. That work never ended. Jonah accepted that. Others had too. Hope wasn't loud. It didn't conquer. It endured. It adapted. It stayed. And as long as it stayed, so did they. Jonah found Saar at the edge of a rebuilt port, watching ships rise without fear. They stood there for a moment without speaking. Time had changed them both. Saar no longer wore symbols of rank. Jonah no longer carried the look of constant flight. The galaxy moved behind them. It moved because people chose to move it. Saar turned first and inclined its head. The gesture was simple and equal. Jonah returned it. They walked together along the platform. Workers passed meaningfully calm and focused. No one bowed. No one shouted. That felt like progress. They stopped near the railing. Below them, crews repaired hulls damaged by honest work. Saar spoke about the councils that now argued in the open. Mistakes were admitted quickly. Power shifted often. It was exhausting. It was real. Jonah listened without interrupting. Listening had become his habit. Jonah spoke of distant worlds still struggling. Some resisted change. Some welcomed it late. He helped where he could. He left when staying would break things. That balance mattered. Saar understood that now. Silence returned between them. It was not awkward. It was earned. Saar reflected on the valley where everything broke open. Fear had ruled then. Control had felt safe. Now neither held. Something better had taken their place. Jonah looked out at the stars. They looked the same as ever. That constancy grounded him. The galaxy had not been saved. It had been taught how to save itself. That difference mattered more than victory. Saar acknowledged the cost. Lives were lost. Trust was broken. Some wounds would never close. But the future was no longer sealed. Choice had returned. That alone was worth everything. They parted without ceremony. No promises were made. None were needed. Paths would cross again, or they would not. Both outcomes were acceptable now. Jonah walked toward a waiting transport. Saar remained at the rail. The galaxy stayed imperfect, but awake.